Mr. Vickers here, and we are in Topic 1, Week 3. This is our final week of instruction on the 5 themes of geography and map skills. We are ending with more maps and a map skills wrap-up. Last week, we talked about the different kind of maps that you have seen or used before, and I want to know this week, have you noticed others since then? And what I've shared on the screen today is a road map of the state of Alabama and a trail map of the Harvest Square Nature Preserve, part of the Land Trust of North Alabama. And these are just different maps that you may see. And again, all maps do is they convey information to us. Moving on to map grids. Some maps have a grid to help you locate places. So in this example, South America, it's highlighted in yellow, is in grid sections of D3, D4, E3, E4, and F3. And just like when you're mapping latitude and longitude, you start with the latitude, you start with the letters before you move on to the numbers. So that's why we start with the D and then 3, 4, so on and so forth. Each row of squares or rectangles have a letter, and each column of squares and rectangles has a number. So using this grid map, we can answer a couple questions. The first one is, Australia falls into grid sections. Right? So we know where Australia is. I'm circling it with my cursor right now. And it looks like it starts, we always work top down when we're looking at grids. Looks like it starts in D. All right, so we're going to go over, and it looks like it's in D9. Okay, and yeah, that about covers it. Now, E, it gets a little more interesting. So if we follow E across, Australia is in E8, E9, and it gets a little tricky when you see what it looks like a little bit of overhang to me. So I would probably say this is also in E10. Got to watch with grids though. If it's right on the line, you'll have to kind of make a decision as to whether or not you include that. If you gave me E10, I would say it's correct. If you didn't give me E10, I would not mark that as wrong. The United States falls in the grid section. So here's the United States of America. And it looks like it starts in section B2. And it's really hard to tell here. You could say B3 also. If you didn't, again, I would mark that off. And then it's in C, definitely C1, C2, and C3. And of course, we can't forget about Alaska, because Alaska is part of the United States. So I should have started up here. It's definitely an A1 because it's in this grid. It is in A2 as well. It is also in B1. It looks like that's where that would cut off. The next question, the country that falls in the grid sections A4, A5, and B4. So A4, A5, and B4, that would be Greenland. So Greenland would be the answer. So we can look at a country and tell what grid it's in, or we can look at the grid and we can tell what country it is in, I should say. Let's look at resource and road maps. So maps can help us understand global issues like diversity, sustainability, and trade. This particular map shows us each country's largest export category, what it sends out of the country. Countries that depend on mineral and metal exports are typically quite poor, but there are some exceptions such as Australia. So again, this map is just conveying information. You can see what the color coding means based on the key down here on the bottom. And we can also analyze two maps that are side by side. View the two United States maps. What do these maps tell you? What do they not tell you? And I'll give you a moment. Once again, anytime, feel free, if you are updating your notebook, feel free to pause the video and capture any necessary notes, and then continue to move on. Now, what this is showing us is area of settlement in 1790. United States population was about 4 million. Area of settlement in 1919, population is about 100,000 or 100 million, excuse me. So you can see we have the westward expansion. You can see population continues to grow on the eastern side of the United States as well. And then we have road maps. So this is a road map of the state of New South Wales of Australia. Using what you've learned about maps, let's look at the following questions. Sydney is located blank of Newcastle and north of Wollongong. Let's go with that. So we first have to find Sydney. Sydney is located right here. Uh, Newcastle. All right, Sydney is located of Newcastle. So Sydney, Newcastle is here. So Sydney is located compared to Newcastle. If we go south and west. So this is Newcastle. Sydney is located blank of Newcastle. So from Newcastle, it will be south and then west. And then if you follow State Highway 87 north, it will intersect with two national routes in the city of Bourke, I believe. So looking at the key down here, State Highway, the state highways are a blue background with white text. And here is State Highway 87. We're going to follow it north. And here's the city that we were looking at. And there are two other highways that intersect. So we're looking for National Route, 37 and 71. We also have thematic maps, and these maps have a certain theme. So the first one here, and this is your first notebook of the week, is a political map. Shows government borders for countries, states, or counties. They may also show capitals and major cities. Sometimes political maps include highways, roads, and cities. Political maps, this political map shows parts of Africa and Europe. So basically what political maps show are man-made borders, man-made structures. If you're in space and look down, you're not going to see state lines. You're not going to see counties. You're not going to see capitals. Of course, you may see, depending on how much you magnify, you may see population density. You may see bigger centers, but it's not going to label exactly what you are looking at like a political map. A physical map shows Earth's natural identifiable features. So if you look at the map on the right, you're able to see different mountains. You're able to see waterways. This physical map of Africa shows rivers, lakes, and seas. Physical maps also show government boundaries, like the different countries identifiable on this map. So this is a physical map. Remember, it shows the Earth's natural identifiable features. A topographic map, also known as a topo map, uses elevation contour lines to show the shape of the Earth's surface. We'll watch this video on Wednesday. This particular one shows the Great Pond Mountain in the state of Maine, as well as three other smaller but prominent peaks located in the same region. So this basically shows mountains. This shows elevation changes. So if you're an avid hiker, then you're probably pretty familiar with a topographic map. There's other maps too. We have a road map of Washington, D.C., which I already showed you this on the beginning slide. Climate maps. This particular one shows the climate in different regions. Could show temperature, rainfall, dry weather. And again, the map can show you whatever you're looking for. You just have to know what you are looking at the map based upon the information it's trying to convey. And then finally, an economic or resource map shows how resources are distributed across different regions. Time zones. When you count Alaska and Hawaii, the United States and Canada have 6 time zones. As you move eastward from one time zone to another, the time is an hour later. Actually, before we do this, I want to go back because I forgot about the state of Hawaii when we were looking at the grids. And it actually does not show on here. So that's interesting. So the United States falls in the grid sections. If this showed Hawaii on the map as well, we would definitely need to include that. So just, I've forgotten about Hawaii when I was going through it because I didn't see it. Okay, time zones. So United States time zones. United States and Canada have 6 time zones. As you move eastward from one time zone to another, the time is an hour later. So let's look at these questions together. When it is 3 o'clock in Colorado, what time is it in California? And you know what state you're looking at here. So if it is Colorado, the state of Colorado is right here in Mountain Time. And the question is if it's 3 o'clock in Colorado, what time is it in California? So California is located right here in the Pacific time zone. Really, we just need to count backwards because it's earlier. It's an hour earlier when you go from Mountain to Pacific. So 3 o'clock, we're going to jump 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock. When it's 11 a.m. in Florida, here's the state of Florida in the Eastern time zone. What time is it in Oregon? We have to make several jumps here because we have to start in the Eastern time zone. We go through the Central time zone, through the Mountain time zone, and Oregon is also in the Pacific time zone right here. So if it's 11 o'clock a.m. in Florida, what time is it in Oregon? 11, 10, 9, 8. Go through that again because we have to make several jumps. 11 a.m. in the state of Florida, 11, 10, 9, 8 a.m. in the state of Oregon. And then if you drive from Kansas, Kansas is located right here in the central time zone. And actually, Kansas, the very westmostern part of Kansas, is in the Mountain time zone. So we are going to say Kansas to Utah. We're going to say we're in the central time zone because that's where the majority of the state is. And if we start in Kansas and we drive to Utah, we're starting in the central time zone and we are ending up in the Mountain time zone. You're going to have to move your clock 1 hour back. And then we're going to look at historical maps as well. Maps then and now. Historians use maps as an essential tool for reconstructing the past. Historical maps can help us see how places and people have changed over time. The map on the right shows the loss of Native American lands over time. So this map doesn't give us a lot of information on this particular screen, but it says the map on the right shows the loss of Native American lands over time. So we're going to assume the map on the left is original. So you can, if you start on the left map, you can see Native American lands. And then if you go to the right, it shows us at this point the Native American lands as well. You can see there's a loss as you go from the map on the left to the map on the right. But again, that map does not give us a lot of information. And if we're looking at historical maps, we can analyze these maps, view the 2 maps of the United States. How have the political boundaries changed over time? Again, we're talking about westward expansion here. And notice this, the western part of the southwestern part, of what is now the United States was part of Mexico. And the map on the right shows us the map of the United States and essentially where these states came from. The Louisiana Purchase, ceded by Mexico, Oregon Territory. So again, these maps will show us how political boundaries have changed over time. Remember, political boundaries are kind of those man-made lines. A time lapse, notice the notebook icon, can help us better understand how the geography of a place has changed over increments of time. So looking here, this time-lapse map shows the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest from 1950 to 2020. So the green, and again, it doesn't tell us flat out that the green is forest coverage and the yellow is where forest where there is no coverage, but we're going to make that assumption because as we go through time from 1950 to 1985, this map is trying to show us deforestation. So we're going to make that assumption just looking at the green. There's less of it as we go through time, and there's more yellows. That's why we're connecting those dots. 1950, 1985, 2000, 2005, 2010, and 2020. And deforestation is the removal of forest land. The land is converted into non-forest use, such as farms, ranches, urban developments. When loggers remove large portions of the forest, it disrupts the natural environment. And then what we did last Wednesday, and this is the making connections, there's actually a really cool site called Google Earth Time-Lapse, where you can look at satellite imagery to create a time lapse over the past 35 years. And you explored this last Wednesday. I just wanted to circle back and make sure that you all know this resource does exist. So again, any questions, drop them in the comments. The next video, we are going to start moving into the Neolithic era since we are finishing our introduction to geography. And remember, as we go through world history, geography is going to be a major theme, but we are basically these past 3 weeks setting the stage. You can understand when you're looking at maps and looking at geography, understand the why and how behind it. Have a great week.